Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Chatting with Sherri. Today I'm welcoming back the wonderful Hudson Leick. Hudson's best known for her part as Callisto on Xena Warrior Princess, but she's dedicated her life to teaching others how to become more conscious and connected to themselves. This is a 50-minute talk. It was recorded earlier, so please don't call in. Here's Hudson. Hi, Hudson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sherri. Good to be here.
It's really exciting to have you back. You've been doing a lot of stuff. You've got retreats and books and videos. Where do you want to start?
I have no particular place to start. I didn't even think about it. You're in England right now, and I have 2 more yoga retreats to teach in Wales. I went to my first music festival that I've ever gone to called WOMAD, and that was incredible. And I will be teaching in upcoming retreats in Czech Republic in October. After I leave England, I'll be in India for a while, and then I come back to more retreats there and also in England and in Wales. I think that's the...
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask what the music festival was about. I'm curious. I never heard of it.
Yeah, WOMAD, I hadn't either. There's so many festivals in Europe that are just incredible, and I'd never been to a festival before. It's a music festival from musicians all around the world. So except it's really big and just incredible. And they also sell things like textiles and fabrics and jewelry, and they have a lot of vegan food, and it was just really aware and awake. And the musicians are playing maybe 4 at a time, all over in the middle of nature. And they set them up so that the sound gets blocked so each one can be heard by huge amounts of audience. And people sleep there the whole weekend. It's a whole village. And it was just, I didn't know what to expect because I'm not a festival person. I think my prejudice against festivals are, I had a different idea of what I think festivals are, and I'm sure some festivals are like that, but this was not. This was really conscious and incredible, and I felt so blessed to go. I felt like it was magic.
That sounds really cool. And what was the name of it again? Because I've never heard of it.
It's called WOMAD.
WOMAD. Okay.
Yes, WOMAD.
Interesting. No, I love hearing about new stuff that I've not heard of before, and that really sounds cool.
Yeah.
And did you buy anything?
I did. I bought, thank you for asking, I bought like this ridiculously wall hanging, this Indian wall hanging, and the people who made it are from the border of Pakistan and India, and they're sort of in a no man's land, so it's really hard to earn a living. And so these English people travel, and they hire them, and they do fair trade, so they give them a really good price for their work. And so, I don't know, the piece itself is beautiful just by itself, but to know that it's fair trade and that we're helping other people survive and feed their families makes it even better. It's like a double gift. And I bought it for my friends here in England, so they're figuring out what to do with this magic carpet that takes up a whole wall.
Wow. Oh, so it's huge.
Huge.
Oh.
It's just huge. It's ridiculously big. And it's pieces of fabrics, like just all these gorgeous Indian pieces of fabrics all sewed together by hand. It's just extraordinary.
Wow. Yeah, that would be a difficulty for me, too. Where would you put it that would be beautiful but wouldn't look overdone? That's a balance act.
It is. But they have 2 houses, and they have a lot of wall space, so I think they'll be okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. That's really cool, though. Did you buy anything for yourself?
I bought myself a pair of earrings. These really interesting Indian earrings. Yeah.
Cool. That's part of the fun for me when I do stuff is like, what I want to get gifts, and I want to get something for me too, and what will I get? And I love doing that. That's one of the fun things about travel.
Me too. And especially things like that because they're handmade.
Yeah, I remember my first trip out of the country by myself was to Mexico, and when we were in Puerto Vallarta, I didn't want to go the same route as all the other people were going, so I went with a couple of people that I was on the cruise with, and I said, let's just go through the village and see what's here, instead of following everybody else that's on the cruise and going to the restaurant and doing all that. So we ended up in this little shop, and they had this lady doing crafts, and it was gorgeous. I mean, really beautiful. So I got something for my grandparents and my mom and dad and my brother, and I ended up getting myself this really beautiful pink and white handmade chess set. It was beautiful. Unfortunately, it broke in the earthquake.
Oh no.
In the North earthquake.
Right.
So I lost that, but it was gorgeous. I just can't get it again.
Yeah. Traveling is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
And nothing we buy lasts anyways. They're just moments.
Yeah.
We get them for moments. We're just borrowing them for moments. We're renting them.
Yeah, that's true. The only thing you have is the memories of the trip in your head. That's the only thing that's permanent.
Yep, and even that fades.
Yeah, as you get older. Yeah. And I was talking with another guest a couple of days ago, and we were talking about how people rely on stuff like Google and stuff, and how the human brain is actually changing because we're relying on electronics so much. So I've been trying not to jump onto the computer every time I want to find something out and try to remember it myself. Because I don't want to lose my memory.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think we are definitely hooked into so much of electronics. Like, even walking down the street, everyone's holding an iPhone. They're not even looking where they're going.
That's true.
But the thing I think that's sad is that we're so disconnected from nature. Like, every time I go to Wales to teach a retreat, it's like every cell in my body exhales to be surrounded by nature, it's so nourishing to the system and the nervous system that we don't even realize it. And when we plug into TV or Netflix or video games, and I'm not saying that I don't do it either, but it actually agitates the nervous system rather than calms it down.
I know. It's like, I like to go to the beach or to the pool and have a regular book and leave my cell phone in the house or the car or wherever and just relax. Because I don't know about you, but I find when you're reading something online, it's not relaxing. When you're reading it from a book, it is. I don't know if that's just a mental block of my own, but that's the way I feel about it.
No, I feel the same way, actually. I don't read on Kindle. I'll read news sometimes on my iPad, but I don't typically read. I'll either listen to audiobooks by the teachers themselves, either giving a talk or reading, because I like to hear their voices straight from them, or I'll read a book, which I also find really relaxing. It depends on the book, though. Sometimes if the book is really like a thriller, then I get all wired up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, or I like a good murder mystery, and it depends on the murder mystery. Like if you have something like Agatha Christie, I find that relaxing. If you have something like P.D. James, that wires me up because they're totally different types of murder mystery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's weird. But I could read the same book on my Kindle, on my phone, and not have that sense of relaxation I'd have flipping the pages of a book. I like books. I like the connection with a book that you don't get with a piece of electronic. You can't cuddle up with a piece of electronic.
No, not really.
So you've been traveling a lot. You have your retreats coming up, but you also have written a new book. What's your new book about?
The new book is about emotional wellness and using essential oils to support and serve in going deeper within our emotions and a calm point and accepting emotions. Because one of the things I find in our society is that we accept anger, like road rage seems to be very acceptable. It's not pleasant and nobody likes it, but it's acceptable. But yet crying in public is really not acceptable. And underneath that rage actually is fear. And there's many ways to release the fear through crying, laughing, or getting angry. All of our emotions, in fact. So it's finding ways to allow yourself to be as authentic as you possibly can be in a loving, safe place for yourself. So it's learning how to speak differently to yourself than the judgment, the brain, the ego that judges you that you're not doing it right, you're not doing it fast enough, you're not doing it perfectly, which there's no such thing of. So that's basically what the book talks about. And the man who hired me to do it wanted me to try to use essential oils to support this, and I did, and I really enjoyed it. It was really fun to do it. But I'd like to say also that you actually don't need to use another tool, even using the book. You don't need the tool of essential oils in order to create the suggestions in the book. But it makes it definitely more ritualistic and more fun, especially if it's pure essential oils, because smell is one of our most powerful scents.
That's fascinating. One of the things you said just made me think back. I find it really odd about human beings, that, at least American human beings, that anger is so accepted. Like somebody can have a hissy fit at work, and they're just like, oh, that's just them. But if a girl is upset and angry and she cries, therefore they're belittled, and get yourself together and have you cracked up or something. It's like, I wonder why we are so accepting of anger. Why is that like the way we, I don't know, it's like people saying nasty things on Twitter. There's no reason for it, but people just say, oh well, and I find it strange, and I don't understand why we've always been that way, but we have.
I don't know if we've always been that way, because I've only been alive for 49 years, so I'm guessing at some point, I actually think it's possible that thousands and thousands of years ago humans lived very differently until they were taken over by the ego and the mind. And it's sort of like we all have the same cold, so nobody knows that we're sick. So we're ruled by the ego. And when we're angry, we feel more empowered. So that anger makes us feel like we are in control of something in that moment, even though we're not. It's quite the opposite. And when we are releasing tears, when we're able to cry, the ego tells us we're much more vulnerable, and that therefore makes us weak. So you were talking about women. So it's true, women for sure, but imagine how much harder that is then. Anger is totally completely accepted to be angry as a man, but it is not acceptable to cry. And I think it's complete nonsense. It's just, it's not a truth. It's just what our ancestors have taught us over the millennia. So that's what we've become accustomed to, of being the truth. But it's not. It's made up. just all indoctrinated into it, so we don't know the difference. But when you have a really good cathartic cry and you're able to get it all out, don't you feel really good afterwards?
Oh, yeah.
For the most part. I'm not talking about boredom.
You're exhausted, but yeah, it doesn't cure you, but it does help. It balances a little bit the pain.
Yes. Well, I'm not talking about like something like mourning the death of someone, because that may take years or a lifetime. I'm talking about like if you have a big emotional upset and you squash it and you try not to have it, even with death, it comes out sideways. And you're suppressing your own self and your own being. But when you allow yourself to have the full emotion, it does actually kick in the endorphins, which calms down the mind, which makes you actually feel better. And the only way I can actually talk about it where someone would really believe me is to have your own experience. So the next time, and I still have the same thing, if I hang up and I'm in public, I may have resistance at first to let them out a bit, especially if I'm angry at first. But when I'm able to actually be completely autonomous within myself, self-contained, and acknowledge to myself, close my eyes and say, I'm really actually sad. And it doesn't matter what the rest of the world thinks, because thoughts are just, thinking is just thoughts that fly by like clouds in the sky. We don't hold on to them. So if I let go of what everyone thinks, because what they think changes all the time, and I just make it about this being, Hudson, for this moment, and allow myself to acknowledge to myself how I feel, genuinely sit still and acknowledge what's happening. I'm afraid, I'm insecure, I feel like I might get specific, this person doesn't like me, I won't be accepted. I try to get really pinpointed. And then I realize it's not about, even though I may say it, it's good to say it to myself, happening, so I don't go into immediate denial. Like when I deny something, I'm like, I don't care, then I shut down. But if I can close my eyes and say, I'm really insecure around this person, I feel like I'm not enough, I don't need to say it out loud to that person at all. I need to know what's happening in my own being and say it to myself, and then let go of that thought completely, and then follow the feeling. Because the feeling of insecurity happened way before I ever met this person. It's just a habit pattern with certain experiences. I'm talking a lot, but does this make sense to you? Are you following me?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking when you were talking about my own feeling. I have one of my issues is that, and I've been told that I care too much about what other people think. I try to use meditation, but it's hard to do it in the moment. How do you do it in the moment? I mean, I do it afterwards, after the confrontation or after the issue pops up, but you were talking about that you do it while you're going through it. How do you do that?
Well, it takes practice, because we're not trained, so we have to have gentleness towards self. So your parents didn't know how to do it, my parents didn't know how to do it, so we weren't brought up with it. Right? So we're beginners at it.
Right.
So I accept that I'm a beginner at it, and I don't expect myself to get it immediately, or even ever, but I'm willing to work at it. So when the feeling comes up, it comes up really fast. Anger comes up even faster than sadness or grief. And anger is a great defense. Mm-hmm. But let's say I'll use yours for insecurity.
Okay.
So if I'm feeling insecure around someone, it depends on how deep the insecurity is, right? Mm-hmm. So there's one person I can think of that I feel it feels really unpleasant. I feel unpleasant sensations around this person, and it feels like this person really doesn't like me and doesn't like to be around me, and that's fair enough. Not everybody likes everybody. But when I make my idea of what they're thinking, because I don't know in reality, when I make my idea of what they're thinking about me more important than what's going on with me, then I have now just given all my power over to some other person's thoughts. And I do it so fast that sometimes I can't catch it. But once I realize, now this is the key. So something's happened. That's the dog downstairs. I'm sorry. She's going to want.
Okay.
Sometimes I know there's people I'm uncomfortable with. So before I meet with them, I know that there may be a discomfort that could come up for me. So instead of buying into that whole discomfort and preparing it ahead of time, like I'm going to block them, I'm going to say this, I'm going to be like this, like you already become defensive when you're around that, when you're going to walk in towards that person. That's normal because we want to protect ourselves. But instead, if I can stay open to that moment-to-moment of that feeling, and if I do end up feeling that normal feeling and I'm able to catch it, so let's say I don't even prepare and I run into this person and I immediately feel that I'm not liked or I'm not worthy, or if they think I'm stupid and then I think I'm stupid too. Like I'll buy into their way of thinking for a moment. So what helps the most is if I'm able to sit still and go, what's going on with you? Because your body will let you know. You feel uncomfortable, you feel tense, you want to run. If I can sit still with myself and say, what is going on with you? What is going on with you? You're scared. You're really tense. You want to run, or you want to fight or flight, like an animal. Okay, so you're just going to be here now, and you're just going to breathe. So sometimes, if I'm really triggered, all I can do is count my breaths. So I watch the breath go in, and I watch the breath go out.
Mm-hmm.
And I count. So I go 1, 2. If I have to engage with this person, I can't do it. But if I say, can I just have a moment? Because we all have that right to say, can I have a moment? You're just honoring yourself, and by honoring yourself, you're actually honoring that person too. And you're honoring your relating to that person. So you don't go into that typical behavior. And then everything has the possibility of slowing down.
That's really interesting. Okay. That's really interesting. Okay. That helps. I mean, I'm sure that other people will use that and value that information, because that's something that we all go through all the time, every day.
Yes. Absolutely. And that's a big one, and that's one that most people don't talk about. It was really brave for you to say it out loud. I think as human beings, we all have insecurity, and we all want to be liked, and we all want to be important and loved and respected with each other. And that doesn't happen all the time because we're all different. We like what we like, we dislike what we dislike, and it's moment to moment. Eckhart Tolle talks about, which I love, he talks about watching ducks as a spiritual practice. And what ducks do is they get into some kind of fight. He doesn't know why they're fighting. They could be territorial, but they fight with each other, and then they swim away from each other, and then they both start flapping their wings. And he realized the way they flap their wings is to get rid of all that tension in their bodies, so they're not holding on to it. They get rid of it right away, and then they're calm and they let it go, and they go on their way. And we as human beings, we don't do that. So we keep getting more and more tense. We keep it inside. We keep it within ourselves, and we don't want to show weakness to anybody else, and we don't want to be truly honest even with ourselves, because that could make it more real. But when we do face that paper tiger, that paper ring of fire, when we're willing to face it and go, how am I really feeling in this moment? And be really honest with yourself. It can change something. If you're willing to stay with it and not give it so much meaning that you're right or correct, and not make it about the other person. They did this, they said this, they're bad. but stay with just your feelings, not what caused the feelings, just your feelings, you have a whole level of self-love just by staying with how you feel. And you'll be able to make different choices from that place. But as easy as the words sound, it's hard to do.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a different practice than what we're normally doing. That would mean I would have to say to you, Sherri, if it was between you and me, I'd say, I just need a few minutes. Can you hold on for a moment? Can I call you back in 5 minutes?
Right.
So that you may say yes, you may say no. And then you deal with that moment too. But most people will say, okay, I can give you a couple moments. You take your moments and you check in with yourself and you be genuine with yourself. And then you come back to that relationship with your full self.
That's incredibly good advice. And it's interesting because when you were talking about the ducks, I was thinking, how much smarter animals of all types, fish, animals, I've been watching the show Blue Planet. They are so much smarter than humans in so many ways, and so brilliant. My favorite episode was when a squid was escaping a shark, and he actually got shells around him like armor to protect himself. It was like, oh my gosh. And they always have behind the scenes, and the guy said that he was really, he goes, we're supposed to separate ourselves, but we all became very affectionate toward this guy, and we were really worried, and then to see him do it, it was like, this guy's brilliant. But, we think we're the top dog, when really, we're just part of the ecosystem. We're not top anything. We're just one piece. And that's the kind of respect we should have, is that we're just part of it. We're not the top. And we got to stop acting like that.
I would, thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful. I would go even further than that, and this is only my opinion. Animals definitely have a wisdom, and they have a lot less ego than human beings do. Human beings do have the ability to wake up, to become self-realized, while animals do not have that ability. But the issues, the negative aspect of the human being is that because our egos are so prevalent and we are ruled literally by our egos, which is sort of like being possessed with our own self-centeredness, huge amounts of self-centeredness, that we are rapidly destroying our own ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And it's not just our ecosystem, it is the whole world's ecosystem.
Yep.
So every animal that's living on the ecosystem. So I do agree with you that we are absolutely a part of it, but sadly, because we are so arrogant and because we are ruled by so much self-centeredness, and I say we because it's a collective, it's not just them, it's us, all together, all of us. Mm-hmm. Because of that, we are literally destroying the planet. And at a rapid pace. So the Earth can survive without us. Like, if humans don't evolve quickly and we die off, the planet will hold life again, I believe. Even I was watching a show called The Dark Tourist, and that's an interesting show. It is dark, but it was interesting, and they were in some place, I believe it was in someplace south of Russia, but also very connected to Russia, where they had a lot of nuclear explosions. And the place is very, very unsafe. No one can live there. And all the plant life grew back, and everyone who visited it was so surprised how nature just flourished again. So it's not nature that needs humanity in any way. We need nature.
Yep.
And you're right, we do not respect it.
Yep.
We do not respect it because we are ruled by our own greed. And I'm not saying that like we're bad. We're just sick and unaware. We're unconscious. In fact, sick is the wrong word because people will take that wrong. I would say we have amazing amounts of unconsciousness, all of us. And so when we keep thinking about me and mine and we're just what we can get and the people we love, and it doesn't matter about the others, and we all do it, you know. There's people that die in fires in California. There's shootings that are happening all the time all over the world. And for us, that's the others. We feel bad, but we're like, phew, thank goodness it's not us or someone we know. And yet we forget it is us.
Mm-hmm.
And even the shooter is us. It's one of us. It's not separate from us. It's one of us. And we need to help each other as a whole, not keep separating. Those are my opinions. Those are my strong opinions.
I completely understand. In fact, when you were saying not sick, I was thinking more like we're like asleep. We're not awake. We're asleep. We're not conscious, so we're asleep. I don't know. That's the way my mind popped when you were saying that.
Right. The only difference to the sleeping part would be is if we were asleep, we wouldn't be causing damage.
That's true.
So the reason I like the word unconscious is because we're awake, but we're, like even if you go to the store, every time you go to the store, think of how much plastic you buy.
Mm-hmm.
How much plastic you buy. We have no more place for this plastic. Our oceans are covered in it. We are fishing our oceans clean of fish. Where soon, and we kill 40% of the fish, and you can look it up, that we take in by dragging the nets because those aren't the fish they wanted to catch to sell. So they kill turtles, they kill anything in their path they sweep up. I mean, it is amazing what we are doing right now.
I know. And also, the plastic is also killing the mammals like whales and dolphins because they intake the deteriorated plastic, and when they're feeding their babies, their milk is filled with that deteriorated stuff, and it's actually killing their children. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff that's coming from plastic. Blue Planet is an education. I highly recommend it. Because Sir David Attenborough, he says everything. He doesn't hold back, and I love him. Yeah, it's sick that we don't see, not we, a lot of people, but not we as everybody. A lot of people don't seem to care. And I don't understand how you can't.
I just want to say, I like to use the word we, actually, as a whole, to include everyone, even the ones that are more aware. Because the more I use we instead of I or me or them and us, it includes everyone. Because we are all on this planet together, and we can all support each other. So it is a we collectively. There's an insanity that we all have, and we also have the ability to wake up, like all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have the ability to become self-realized, all of us. And it's not going to happen, it may happen one at a time, but it seems to be happening in a collective, which is the we. And right now it feels, to me, very diverse. So we've got the people that are really into the big business and a lot of money and a lot of power and a lot of corruption and a lot of confusion. And then there's people that are like, okay, what can I do to help the world? But even the people who are doing what can I help to save the world or to serve human beings, me too, what can I do to keep expanding my own consciousness? So that's everybody's. It's not like, okay, so these people care, and therefore they're better and white, and I don't mean white and Caucasian white. I mean white like good and black like bad, not in colors of people. or skin color, just in that archetype of good guy, bad guy. And when we do that, we keep separating that way, it keeps perpetuating that difference. And that's the part that I think is also harming us, because there isn't a they. They are us.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
It's hard to accept, especially if you don't like it, what some people are doing. But that's a part of humanity. Even the Nazis, Hitler, that whole dark history, which has been going on for a very long time, not just with the Nazis, in humanity, that came from humanity itself, not just this one group. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's scary, but it makes sense.
And it is scary. It's scary to know that we all have within us potential for such horrific things. Some more than others, depending on more than others, depending on. But we all have that potential. I mean, mine can be as much as I don't like when someone cuts me off on the road, and I will drive in a very dangerous way to overtake someone. Now, I don't drive anymore right now because I'm in Europe, so that hasn't happened in a long time. But that is one of my weak spots. And what does that do? One, it puts my life at risk. It puts another person's life at risk. And it causes a fight on the road, which is dangerous and not necessary. Because I have not been able to control in that moment my self-righteousness. So I'm not bad because of it. I'm just unconscious.
Yeah. I get very emotionally upset with stuff, especially with stuff that's in the news lately. And I find that it's easier for me not to watch news broadcasts. I'd rather get the paper and read it because, I don't know, but maybe it's the tinge that the different broadcasts are, or even broadcasts that I agree with, they still upset me. And so I've been, if I control it by reading it and I still have my news, then I don't feel that weird agitation. I'm not really sure where it comes from. I don't even know why I'm saying it, but I just noticed it more and more of late.
Yeah, I think, everything is dichotomy, everything, and even the things I'm saying. So I'll say one thing and then I'll say something that seems almost opposite of what I'm saying. And actually, both can be true. So, although I do believe it's a collective we, I also believe the only being that I have any real influence over changing is this being I call Hudson.
Yeah.
That's it. So, I need to take care of this being called Hudson, and I am responsible for it. I'm responsible for calming down my own nervous system. So my practice, I meditate every day, no matter what, for at least an hour a day, sometimes 2.5 hours. I do a lot of yoga, which makes my body strong and supple, and is very healthy for it and heals it, and also calms down my nervous system. I eat mostly vegetables and fruits to the best of my ability. I don't eat meat. I still eat fish, a bit of fish, which I'm not exactly proud of, but I'm not ready to give up yet. But very rarely do I eat that even, maybe once a month. So all these things that I do affect my whole being. And I want to keep having my consciousness expand. I am the only one that will be responsible for this being. The only one, until I'm like an old woman and I'm no longer able to function, or my mind starts deteriorating. But right now, I'm the only one responsible for me. So I have to make sure that I take care, like really lovingly take care, and sometimes with a lot of discipline. So I think it's the same for other people. We all have that responsibility to take care of ourselves. I always want to keep growing and learn how to diffuse my anger, how to be more present, how to apologize when I so don't want to, because my ego doesn't want to admit that I'm wrong in front of someone that I may not like. Doesn't matter. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And that needs to be said out loud, and I need to apologize to whomever I was wrong to. It's important, and it's also self-love. And my living this way may or may not, but my guess is when I live this way, it gives other human beings around me the opportunity and the chance, if they like it, to go, oh, that's interesting. I would like to live more like that because she seems more peaceful.
Yeah, it's a great example.
Yeah, but that would be my hope. But the truth is, everyone else could be emotionally on fire and not be peaceful, and still, I would still take the actions that I take, because that's the only one I'm responsible for.
It's true.
Does this make sense? So if I taught yoga, and I didn't meditate or practice yoga, and I demanded everyone to do all these certain things that I didn't do, it would feel very wooden and false. It probably wouldn't feel very good. But it doesn't matter even teaching yoga. If you, Sherri, decided to chant or meditate or swim, it doesn't have to be something that I do, but something that calms the nervous system down for you and feeds you and allows you to be fully yourself. Because there's an aspect when you speak that you judge yourself really critically. And maybe you even judge others that way. Usually it goes hand in hand. I know it does for me. But first, it's always with self. So that's painful and unnecessary and unkind to self. So what can you do in a way that supports your nervous system so you can learn how to pause before attacking self? And that takes time and willingness and practice. And this whole life is just a big practice. There will never be a prize where someone give you a big gold trophy and says, Sherri, you made it. But you'll start loving yourself and feeling more peaceful and at ease in yourself in a way that you never have before. And that is better than any prize out there in the world.
That's true. I do yoga and stuff, meditation and swim. Swimming is my favorite thing. But it I don't know. It's hard to balance everything. I try. That's all I can do.
Yeah, it's also, it's not about doing all of those things and cramming them in so you can say you've done them. And it's not about, like, even your response, I hear you, there's a defensiveness of like, but I do those things and I am good. You are absolutely good, Sherri. Like, and I'm not just saying this to you. I'm using you as an example because I'm talking to will hear this. You're brilliant, Sherri, and you're loving and you're kind and you're smart and you're savvy. It's more about when you do it, doing it with such presence. It isn't doing it so you build the best body or you get through it so you can check mark it off your list. It's doing it with as much presence as you possibly can. It's starting to have a relationship with yourself and your mind that's different than the critical place. And at first it's going to be really hard to do because the critical part you can't even hear. You're just accustomed to it. And this is most human beings. This is not just you. And me too, I still have it. So that critical part comes in super fast, and it's so strong that you don't even hear it. You just believe it. So your mind tells you, oh, you idiot. And it comes so fast, right? Mm-hmm. It comes so fast and so strong that you just buy into it, that you weren't able to stop it because you weren't even able to hear that you're saying it to yourself. It just is like a truth with a capital T. But it's bullshit. It's not the truth. As soon as you know that you're saying that to yourself, you're going, God, I feel like an idiot. Then you unwind it and go, I'm not an idiot. I just made a mistake in that moment, and I dropped something on the floor. That happens. Something fell. That doesn't make me dumb. Something fell. So what? I'm going to pick it up.
Makes sense. It's hard, though. Very hard.
It's hard because our egos are addicted to attacking us. We get actually a hit when we attack ourselves. When we emotionally attack ourselves, for some reason it makes us feel like we're driving ourselves forward. We're going after something, we're getting something, we're improving ourselves. We're not. We're debilitating ourselves when we attack ourselves. But it's habitual and it's also addictive. And that's the hardest part to hear, because you think, why would I ever be addicted to saying bad things to myself? You're not conscious of the fact that you're doing it. And your mom probably did it to herself. Your dad could have done it to himself. It was passed down, and it wasn't passed down to you out of lack of love. It was passed down because it was just passed down, and that's what they learned, and that's what they learned, and that's what they taught without meaning to teach it to you. And that's for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's finding gentleness with this practice. Not ferocity. Not more judgment, but actually softening the shoulders and getting heavy when you're sitting down and letting yourself fully be in this present. Because right now, as my words are vibrating to your ears while I'm in England and you're in California, that's all that's happening in the world for us in these seconds. That's it. And life is just moment to moment, just little bits of now strung together like a pearl necklace until this body passes. That's it.
That's very true. That's actually really pretty. Where did you get that? Is that a philosophy that you've read?
Don't know. I think I heard something like that from Eckhart Tolle. I think the necklace was my own made-up thing, but you never know. I listen to so many things.
I love that. I love that. Each pearl on the necklace is a moment. That's really beautiful.
But that's all we have is the moments. Like, really, that's all we have is these incredible moments. And my moment is no more important than your moment, nor is your moment right now, Sherri, breathing in and out, more important than my moment. Like, it's just being present now. And when we're able to actually do that, it feels much better.
That's really beautiful. I hate to go to business, but I want you to be able to talk about your stuff. So, because we're at 45 minutes and you've got like a few minutes left just to talk about your book and your videotape and your retreat. So I'm just going to give the floor to you to talk about all the beautiful things you have.
Sure, that's really generous of you. Thank you. Well, the book has been written, and it will be out on Amazon Prime October 15th. And we have retreats coming up in Czech Republic. In fact, we have retreats coming up in Czech Republic. In fact, as soon as I get off the phone with you, I'm going to be talking to Czech Republic, and we will have the dates solidified. They'll be in October, and they'll be solidified probably this week, and I will put them up on Facebook. And we're also going to do workshops in Czech Republic, about 2 hours to 3 hour workshops in 4 different cities in Czech Republic. Then I'll be going back to England, and we'll be doing more retreats in Wales throughout the winter. And I think that's it. We finished the yoga video as well, and that will also be out on Amazon Prime the 25th of August.
Cool. And is this an expansion of the other yoga DVD you did, or is this a completely new one?
This one is also about essential oils. So I'm using essential oils. It's a beginner's yoga video, so a beginner can use it. But we're using the power of the pure essential oils. So if you decide to do this and you want to use oils, I always recommend using 100% pure oils. And do not put the oils directly on your skin without putting a buffer of another oil, like a grapeseed oil or a sweet almond oil, because the essential oils have the potential to burn your skin if you put them directly on without putting a buffer on beforehand. And you don't a lot.
I hadn't heard that part before. That's very important information.
Yeah, and so that's about a beginner's yoga video, and I believe there's two. There's a morning one and an evening one in that particular video. So there's one to put you to sleep and help you relax, and there's one for when you wake up and you feel invigorated. And they're both set for someone who's never done yoga before.
Cool.
And I think that's really it.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on, Hudson. I really appreciate